Let's go.
What's up, Carl?
What's up, man?
How you doing? Thank you for coming on this interview with me today.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're someone I admire. You mean a lot to me. You know that. But
Thank
today
you.
it's going to be all about you. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. So let's kind of go right into some things.
Okay.
You know, we can go on and on about our experience together. But really, what I want to talk about is your journey to
Okay.
become a broker, because you're a broker owner, right?
Correct. Yeah, I own a individual independent brokerage called AE Realty.
AE Realty.
The AE stands for American Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So that's mine.
When did you get your license? When did you become active?
So 2004. So I'll never forget. I was a kid that didn't have a lot of direction in my early 20s.
Yeah.
I was waiting tables, kind of had a couple of side odd jobs. I had tried college, but it wasn't really for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just couldn't focus in the classes. I think I suffer from ADHD, even though I've never been diagnosed with it. I think I couldn't.
So college wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me at all. You know, I tried several times, and I don't think I valued education as a young man. And I don't even know exactly why, but I was kind of bored with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I would always run off and do stuff with friends, and so. You know, but you know, it was after a fairly major life event where I had what I would call a near-death experience or a close experience with that I decided that I needed to switch gears.
Yeah,
I needed to find a better environment or something that I could do that would be a little more responsible.
Right.
And
and you're still young at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm 41. I'm 41 years old. I feel like that's young.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people don't, but you know, so like, hey, you know, I got great energy and I still feel young. But,
nice. So how old were you when you got your license?
So I was 24. I was 24 years old. I'd had some kind of crazy events happen, which, you know, I talk more about that in other videos. But I basically was at a rock bottom point. What I love about that rock bottom point is typically when you see a person hit rock bottom, they're willing to make some real change.
Right.
And they
almost need to, right?
They have to. They turn to what I say, they become learning based, which is they say, you know what, I don't have it all figured out. I need to find somebody that can help me figure this out.
Right.
I'm humbled. I was extremely humbled at that point. And so I went to my mom, who's a huge blessing in my life. You'll always hear me talk about her because she has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. I said, Mom, you know, going through this, and she was helping me get through it. But she also, back then, was a real estate investor. She was buying like one house a year back then. This was, of course, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so she said, son, you know, I'm buying these houses and I'm building up, you know, my portfolio. My mom's an incredibly savvy real estate investor.
Nice.
She says, you could do that. Why don't you be one of the realtors? You're good at talking to people and you're a good, inspiring person. I was like,
so
okay.
That's the most your family was in real estate. Your mom was just buying houses.
At the time, I think she owned like four or five houses, and she was trying to pick up another one a year.
Yeah.
She's just a nurse. She was a registered nurse. And so I said, you know what? It sounds cool. I'll give it a shot. You know? And so I got my license in 2004 based off of my mother's recommendation. So,
wow. So, and who would have known that you would become a broker? I mean, like the journey from like kind of falling into it based off your mom's kind of like push and guidance. So how long were you in the business before you realized that you needed to own your own business as opposed to work for somebody?
So that was about 7-8 years. But the journey during that 7-8 year, the first 3 years, I love telling the new agents this because I tell them it's impossible to get a slower start than I did. In my first 3 years in real estate, I sold 3 houses and they were all to my mom, so they don't even count.
Yeah.
So I was with a company that, you know, they're a fairly well-known company, large company, but I was a 24-year-old kid that didn't really know how to ask for help. I felt, you know, that I was bothering people. And so, you know, I just kind of went and kind of flew under the radar. I kept waiting tables and doing what I could to survive, but I kept with it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let my license go inactive. And when I turned 27, I met my first mentor. His name was Zach Taylor. He was a RE/MAX agent. He was a RE/MAX broker, actually. He had a small brokerage. He had like 4 or 5 agents there.
Yeah.
And the brokerage I was with had like 500 agents.
And RE/MAX is like a franchise, right?
Right.
So you can own a RE/MAX, but like independently own it.
Correct.
I see.
Correct. And so he was that independent owner, and he had been an agent for like 6 or 7 years. And he was about 4 or 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
Which I think that inspired me because he was closer to my age and he was highly successful. And so
I want to follow you.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? I can be like this guy, you know? And so he became my mentor, and he's the one that really changed my path and helped me get to a point where I could be a top producing agent. And so that happened about 2009 when the market was in rough shape.
So you kind of went through the storm of 08.
Right.
And like 09 was still the residue of that.
Yeah. And then remember at 08, I was still kind of just goofing around. I didn't really have any direction. So 09 comes and I have this new mentor, and he's holding me accountable to three things. It's so funny. I love sharing this because I think it's probably some of the best information. It's not so much to be successful. It's not these concepts that are complicated that people can't figure out. It's typically just small habits and small changes.
Yeah.
And so when I met this mentor, he said, look, you seem like a bright kid. He's like, and I'll bring you on. You know, that's in real estate. Well, I'll bring you on.
Yeah, I'll bring you on.
I'll bring you on. He's like, but I got 3 rules. Bring you on essentially means you're going to work a lot and not get paid. Yeah. Just in case anybody ever says that. But he's like, I'll bring you. You're going to learn a lot, which is better than money. So that's what you have to understand. But he's like, I've got 3 rules. And I was like, okay, well, what
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
Let's see if I know these 3 rules.
You probably do, because I said them over and over.
Yeah, and let's see, because you did mentor me for over a year. So rule number 1, you gotta do this full time.
100. Yeah.
Rule number 2, you have to dress the part, so be professional, always in a suit,
yes,
right?
Sir. Professional suit, professional mindset.
And rule number 3 was come early. I think 8 o'clock or 8:30.
8 a.m. in the morning.
8 a.m. in the morning.
Not 8:05, not 8:10, not 8:15.
Did I hit the nail on the head?
You did perfect.
Nice
Good job, man.
So how long ago was that? That was like, what, 12 years ago?
That was in 2000. The beginning of 2009 is when I started with him.
And so you still live by those core principles?
Today, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did and what any good coach or mentor will do is help you create habits. And it was 3 basic habits of dressing professionally and having a professional mindset, showing up to an office early, and focusing on one thing, which, up until that point, I hadn't done anything of. So I created 3 habits, and those 3 habits changed my life. Within 12 months, I became a top producer in San Antonio. I made my first $100,000 in 2009.
So it was that simple, right?
That's simple. It's so funny because the market was it's interesting. Right now, we're going through another correction.
Yeah.
And people are asking, well, this isn't like this, or they're comparing it to the last one. 2009 was one of the worst years of the decline back then during the housing recession. But I was doing fantastic. I was making all kinds of money. And I mean, I was a waiter before that. So I was like, man, people would come to me, man, how are you dealing with this market? And I'd be like,
it's great.
I'm loving it. I mean, it did take 12 months to sell your house back then, but still. I mean,
so you learned some core principles. You became a very productive agent.
Right.
At one point where you're like, okay, I need to go on my own.
Yeah, that was kind of brushed on me. And so I'll tell you this story. I may have told it to you at one point, but I was in my second year as being the top producer. I was making all kinds of money. The mentor that I mentioned earlier, he had a partner who was actually the designated broker of the company. I won't mention his name because when I tell this story, I don't know if he likes it or dislikes it. So. But and I'm sure at one point, I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I have a lot of respect for this guy. He was one of the hardest working men I've ever met. He's one of the few people that could go out there, like literally back then we didn't have .loop or DocuSign or all these technology.
Transaction management.
We didn't have any of that back then. He would go out and get a contract. He'd come out and say, I'm going to come back with a contract. And I said, come back with a contract? How are you going to do that? He's like, you'll see. And he would come out with a contract. He'd tell me the story of how he got it. He was just a hustler, man. He was a hardworking dude. Anyways, the recession hurt him a lot more. And me, I was just making new money. And so for me, it was all great. Yeah. But I showed up to the office one day because, of course, I was showing up early every morning, as was my new habit that I created thanks to my mentor. And my key wouldn't work in the office door at the Remax. I was usually one of the first people there because once I got a hang of it, I started to really enjoy it. And I was like, man, I was always first.
You're always first.
I was excited to go to work. And so my key wouldn't work in the door. And so I was like, that's odd. So I just kind of sat there on the curb and all my stuff was in there. So I was a little concerned. I was like, maybe they changed the locks or maybe they did something. I'm just going to wait.
Is it the right?
Yeah.
Is it the right door?
Am I at the right place? He pulls up and he says, hey, there's a little Mexican restaurant next door. He says, hey, let's go have breakfast. So he sat down. He proceeded to tell me that he was 3 months behind on everything. The rent, our franchise payment to Remax, everything.
Meanwhile,
the light bill. I mean, everything. We were 3 months behind on everything. He's like, look, I can't do anymore. The recession's got me. I'm going to relocate and just try to scale down. He's like, if you want my half of this Remax, it's yours. Like you can buy it right now, but what it's going to cost you is you have to pay back the 3 months that I'm behind. You have to, because my mentor had his half ready to go, but he hadn't paid his half because. And that's the thing about ownership. Before anybody thinks about getting into it, realize that yes, there is a lot of great things about it and a lot of great things you can do with it, but the cost is high,
right?
And the cost is on you, and so. A lot of people run into that and realize that it's not for them because you know what, you got to be prepared to put money into that business at times, and it takes a long time to start making money. So I said, you know what, I was loving it because I was just like, and I'm a high energy guy, I'm an optimist guy,
right.
like I'm a glass half full kind of person, and I was like, I don't want to see this place close. I mean, I've been successful here,
and it's also like an opportunity.
Yeah,
you're right. It's like not every day does a broker give you this opportunity that you had in front of you. So,
man, I
so you jumped on it.
I jumped on it. I didn't have a whole lot of counselors during that time.
Yeah.
Most of them that I did have were like, don't do it. Because you're going to lose all your money like this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like 70 grand in the bank, which was like more than I had ever had. I'm a 28-year-old kid at the time.
Yeah.
And I say kid, I mean, that's getting into being a grown man, but it's still so young. But so I did it. And I became the 50% owner of Remax 360 on Petrenko.
And you didn't need a broker license for that?
No. So back then we had a designated broker that was on our payroll. So we paid him. We paid a higher E&O policy, but he was basically our broker of record. And rent a broker. So, I don't like using that phrase because it sounds like, you don't rent brokers. But no, us, the two owners, did not have broker's licenses, but our broker was designated and he was in the office. He was a member of our organization.
Yeah, I see.
So he was in charge of compliance. And I became
you never dreamed, I want to be a broker owner. You never nothing ever motivated you. You kind of fell into it. Like you said, pushed into it with an opportunity.
I will say that is true.
As an owner of an organization.
Correct. But I always knew that that's what I wanted to do. I have had an entrepreneurial spirit from the beginning of when I can remember. Whether it was lemonade stand. Yeah. When we were a kid, we wanted to start a hockey team, roller hockey team. We did a car wash. I mean, I think that was part of me, is I was always entrepreneurial. I just didn't know exactly the method that was going to happen. Yeah. And so when I fell into real estate and fell into that, I realized, you know what, this is what I was looking for. And I think, a lot of people can call it chance. I call it God. He allowed that. He opened that path for me, and he placed me there. And
the right times.
Right times. And then, it's been about 10, 11 years since that time. So learned a lot.
So you work with Remax. Yeah. And then you opened up your own brokerage.
Correct.
The AE. And when was that?
So I was with Remax for a total of 11 years. And so I joined in 2009, early 2009. At the end of 2018 is when my franchise agreement was up to expire on 2 Remax locations, the one on Petrenko and the one in Alamo Ranch.
Yeah, 2.
I had 2 Remaxes, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, I had 2 for about 5 years. I owned and operated the 2 of those. I eventually had bought out my mentor and previous partner and opened a second location.
Wow, man, you're expanding.
Yeah, I was. And the thing I loved about Remax, and I think it's true, is they created a cool company. It was the home of the top producer. And the reason it was the home of the top producer is because their fees were high. As a matter of fact, I remember unproductive agents would call them fee-max. Because to them, it would be fee-max because they had to pay money up front. Yeah. But the top producers didn't call it fee-max. Yeah. The top producers were like, man, I don't mind paying you a higher fee because when the commission comes in, I'm going to keep most of that. And that was more important to productive people. Right. And so Remax was, the reason I spent so much time with them and I have so much love and appreciation for that organization is because instantly it put me around some of the most productive real estate brokers and teams in the entire world. And add to that, I became a broker owner. And so not only did I get to hang out with all the best teams and agents, the best brokers too. Yeah. And most of the brokers came from, they started off as agents, they became a team leader, then they became a broker. And so it was an incredibly learning-based environment where I just had tons of mentorship opportunities and people coming in and just speaking into my life.
Like a real estate master.
Yeah, it was like I got with the best. Yeah. And, Dave Liniger, quote Dave Liniger, you play better golf around better golfers. I mean, that's the truth. When you're out there with people that can play well, all of a sudden you start playing better.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The opposite happens as well. You go out there with a bunch of guys that are shanking in the woods and can't play.
You learn those habits.
You start playing worse. You're like, man, you guys are... I need to find some new golfing friends.
So, Carl, so now that you're running an organization, AE Realty, you've been doing that for quite some time.
Yeah.
Can you explore some of the different broker model types you've done?
Yeah. So I feel like for the longest time I've operated more of a hybrid. In my opinion, there's really only two models, and then there's a hybrid option between the two. You're either a broker or you're a team that happens to have a broker's license.
I see.
A lot of teams, because they want their own control and they want to, not have, a compliance department looking over them, and they want a little more freedom, they operate as a brokerage, but it's more of a team within a brokerage.
Right.
And then there's your typical brokerage, like, the Keller Williams, EXPs, Remaxes of the world, where basically... Typically, they charge you a fee,
right? And
typically, there's a split or some kind of compensation that goes to the broker, and then you can operate as an individual. Similar, I think, what Realty SA, the company that you're with, I like because they're kind of a hybrid too, like us. There's just more involvement from the broker. They do things like help you generate leads. They give you better systems and things like that.
Yeah. Versus
others that are just kind of like they're kind of like the property managers of real estate agents. As long as they get their fee, they don't care if you sell a house or not. If you do, great, or if you sell 2 or 3, great. But even if you sell nothing, we're still making something off you. So
you still charge, you still paying.
It's a numbers game. You get as many numbers as possible.
I see. And so that's what you mean about like more team based or like broker based.
A broker based team model is that's typically a highly productive agent that realizes that he can be more productive by aligning himself with a smaller group of people. When I say smaller, 25, 30 are the largest I've seen that are like efficient teams. I mean, there's some unicorns out there, but a smaller institution that really focuses on the practice of it.
Yeah.
Like you could look at doctors, for example. There's only so many patients that you could work on yourself.
Right.
Well, you could partner with a few other doctors and really work on your practice and take your own patients and really grow that.
Right.
Or you could join a conglomerate of, doctors everywhere, that have, locations and things everywhere, and you could create that or try to own that. They're two separate models, but one is practice-based and one is more of a business, based on managing practitioners.
Right.
So, and then there's the hybrid of in between of like, we operate kind of like a team, but we also, operate like a brokerage and give you the ability to grow your own team or start your own team or go as high as you want, on this journey of entrepreneurship, which is essentially what it is. When you get your license as a real estate agent, you decide to become a business owner.
Right.
And as a business owner, you can take that to become a multi-million-dollar business, or you can just take it to where you sell one house a year, make a little extra cash. I mean, it's your decision. So
what did you start off? What broker type did you start off with, and like what have you done in the past, and where are you kind of leading to now?
Yeah, I think with Remax, because Remax had so many successful individuals, I started off pretty much as a hybrid. Which is I wasn't your typical Remax broker owner that had large offices with hundreds of desks and offices. We had a small little suite, 1,500 square foot, in a shopping center.
Yeah.
So we couldn't fit many people in there. So the few people we did have in there, it had to be a situation of, okay, we want to work closer with you. We don't just want you to, hey, do your own thing. And we want to work on leads together. We want you to be a part of more of a team with us. And so that's how I started. And with Remax, it was a little challenging to keep that model because I feel like the owner model was more geared towards like the larger brokers, that wanted to, you could carry 200-300 agents and, make quite a bit, versus me who was trying to operate on a smaller scale and really focus on the practice, selling more houses and that sort of thing. And so I say, I started off more as a team, closer to a team model between a hybrid model, because I still own the Remax and I still had independent agents that I brought on. But I kind of focused more of my time and energy on being a team.
Yeah.
And so that helped me too, because even though, my mentor, when he brought me in, he was like, I have these rules. It's hard to put those rules on independent contractors that have their own idea. One thing I hear from agents all the time, I got into real estate for the flexibility.
Right.
And I actually try to talk that person out of becoming a realtor. I would say, well, if you think flexible is being is working on holidays and weekends, evenings, when everybody else is off, you're going to be working. If that sounds flexible to you, then go right ahead.
Yeah, right.
But it's true. Like, it's not flexible. Not if you want to be successful.
Right.
If you want to be successful, it's very unflexible.
You have to be available.
Make time. You have to be available. Hey, you know what? I'll come out there in the evening, the morning, the weekend. Everybody else, I got work.
Because if you're not available, the next person is.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's not very flexible. It's flexible for the client, not so much. Now, at one point, you can find flexibility.
Right.
Once you build a business, and have a team, and have other people that can go and do those things.
And set some boundaries.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I would hear that a lot, and so, I would give those same 3 rules to pretty much everybody that came through my organization, unless, you were grandfathered in from one of the earlier days.
Yeah.
But, it's been helpful, but it's also been helpful pushing people out.
Yeah.
When I say pushing people out, like...
If it don't work,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah. But, the people that have stuck with it, even if you stuck with it for a year, like yourself, I mean, you got tremendous value from it.
Right.
And it helped you get a jump start, a poor foundation
for
a successful real estate career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, people that have stuck with it at least a year or more have seen tremendous results from it. Mm-hmm. We've had some that have stuck with it for years. And we still have that culture alive today. I've learned a lot, and so I'm in this next step of my journey is I'm going to create more of a core, and I'm not calling it my agent development program anymore. Now I'm calling it a leadership development program. And so I feel like where I was missing that leadership element, because truthfully, people can become independent very quickly once they implement those basic habits. Right. And once they become independent, if there's nowhere else to go but just making more money, then that gets old. Right. But when you talk about leadership, and there's growth there. Right. In leadership, there's growth. I can run a business. I can lead people. I can help other people.
There's
I can help their families.
More opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why we make that change. And I'm excited about what this next year holds. I mean,
so you've been in real estate for what, 20 years? 17 years?
16, 17 years, yeah.
And to this day, you're still innovating and evolving. And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of the things I say is the reason we were successful early on is because of our commitment to technology. I mean, we have the best websites. We have an amazing CRM. And I think that's one of the reasons the organization you're with now is successful, because they have a commitment to technology. And this is a constantly tech evolving world that we're in. And if you're, still kind of waiting on that, it's you got to get with the times. Nice. 99.9% of everybody starts their home search on a mobile device. Right. It's really virtually everybody. Right. So you have to have a great mobile platform.
So you've seen the world, the industry of real estate really change.
Oh, so much. I mean, I was there. Back when I first started.
I mean, you didn't have smartphones when you first started.
We had the flip phone. We had the flip phone.
No,
I don't even know if we had a flip phone at that point yet. I had a BlackBerry for years, and I was sad when they went away. Finally I was like, what? I'm not gonna be able to keep using this thing. And I was like, I like the buttons, but I've gotten used to the.
So Carl, can you talk to us a little bit about the financial rewards and risk of being a broker as compared to being an agent? So as an agent, what does the salary type, range look like? As a broker, what does the salary or income look like, and what are some of the risks involved in each?
100%. Yeah. So one person, one agent on his own in the city of San Antonio, with maybe like one assistant, let's say, once you become highly successful. And I know, because I hit this point around 2010. Nice. You can make about 200 to 300, maybe if you're looking at a higher price point, kind of on the luxury side of things, looking at commercial stuff, maybe $300K, $350K, Wow. And then at that point, you have to decide, like, am I going to what kind of team model am I going to create to get to 600 or 700? Right. If I want to get to $1 million, okay, now I have to look at it. I need at least 7 to 8 people, and those people are going to, as an agent, those people can consist of licensed individuals and administrative individuals, people that manage the transaction, people that make sure it's compliant, people that go open the doors, people that go do the listing appointment. There's just you can put that together. Chris Waters, who is one of my close friends, and he also happens to be for years ran the #1 team in Austin. He coached me for about a year. Oh, wow. Wonderful guy. I've always been successful studying other people,
right,
and implementing their stuff as best as I could.
Yeah.
RDR, rip off and duplicate, right?
Yeah, right.
But truthfully, they all love it because it's flattering to them.
Right.
When you try to model somebody else's business, it's always great. And so Chris Waters, Greg Harrelson in South Carolina, Dan Beer and Kyle Whistle in San Diego. These are all guys that I have tremendous respect for. And, I call them friends and mentors. And I've been able to spend more time with some of them than others. But these are people that I basically studied their models.
Nice.
And so even from an early age, right when I became the owner, I'm like, man, I got to figure this thing out. So I would study these guys. A tremendous resource for anybody that's listening is keepingitreal.com. KeepingItReal.com was put on by Jeff Manson, the creator of our platform, Real Geeks, and Frank Klesitz, the owner of Viral Marketing, two mentors and incredibly, amazing guys. But what you're going to find on that is videos of all of the top producing teams in the country and their strategies and how they did theirs. And so you'll find a few people that really, man, that guy's kind of like me.
Yeah.
Or, man, I got kind of his similar style or her style. She does that the way I like to do that. And then you just start to adopt those models. Even my model, I've got a model that has really transformed over the years, but it's been successful in a lot of areas. And so stuff like this is something that's helpful. I put stuff out there just like they do,
right.
And so I want to help people.
Yeah.
And it's free. The information's out there. You just got to look for it, right? Now, if you want somebody to come in and like really help you get there, there's opportunities for that with a lot of different organizations, including my own. But I mean, you can just, that one resource right there could change somebody's life.
Yeah.
KeepingItReal.com. It changed my life.
Nice.
KeepingItReal.com. Check it out.
Were you studying that while you're a broker or while you're a sales agent?
I started studying that pretty quickly as an agent because I became in 2009 when I started to become successful and I got my first trophy for production. Nice. I started to really be around somebody. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget. This is a funny story. I was at my first Remax convention.
Yeah.
And I'd already been like watching these videos on Keeping It Real. This is like 2012 or something like that. This was like 8 or 9 years ago. And I'm at a nightclub. I'm at Club Excess at the Wynn, which is a really fancy nightclub.
Nice.
I don't know what it was. I was just like, some DJ was playing there. I was like, let me go check out this guy out, So I'm sitting there by myself, right? Just my first one. I went by myself. Like nobody in my office went. Like it was only like the top producers that would go to these things. And some of the nightclubs just kind of hanging out, having a drink. And all of a sudden I see Jeff Manson walk by, the creator of Real Geeks.
Oh, wow. No way.
Like, holy crap, that's Jeff Manson.
Like a little celebrity, right?
A celebrity. So I go up to him and I'm like, Jeff, hey, I'm a big fan. I watch all y'all's videos. And you and Frank are awesome. And he's like, oh, you really? Where are you from? You're here for the Remax convention? I was like, yeah, I came in for the convention, my first one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, but we got a table over here.
No way.
Frank is with me, so come with me.
No way.
So I hung out with these guys all night, him and Frank, and we just had such an amazing time. Probably didn't stop hanging until like 4 a.m.
Man, nice.
And I can't tell you how valuable and precious that time is. Because those are the men that help shape the person that I've become and help, transition me in my business and just have given me so much value that I've been able to share with other people. And
you got to party with him.
Dude, I partied with him, and we became great friends after that.
Nice.
We became great friends. First, calling him whenever I needed to.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for most of a lot of the top producers in the country. And
nice.
I gotta say, you gotta seek these people out. You know what I mean? Like, if I hadn't invested in going to that convention, bought the flights, invested in a hotel to get there, and then invested more to try to be around those people, I would have never had that opportunity to run into him. Because he was there specifically for the Remax convention.
Wow.
They had a booth at the table. They were building their company was still relatively new, and they were selling to real estate agents. And he was a broker himself in Hawaii.
So by investing in yourself.
I put myself in a place to develop that relationship. It ended up turning into a lifelong friendship and just an incredible opportunity.
So you wholeheartedly believe as a sales agent, being very productive, that you can make $200 to $300K.
With one assistant.
Yeah.
With one assistant, you can get to about $300K, but then you're going to cap out right there. Your assistant's going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
It's going to stop you.
What are some of the risks involved with making that much income?
I mean, obviously,
a salesperson is still under a brokerage, so the broker has liability.
Right. So you're paying him a lot more money. But overall, like in a lot of these models, you cap at a certain amount. And so they want to keep those top producers, because top producers help them recruit other agents. Top producers, it's kind of like a trophy for a brokerage. Hey, this guy's with us.
Right.
And it attracts other successful people. And so they don't make it too costly. But I say risk-wise, the biggest risk is you're going to run into, there's not enough time.
Burnout, maybe.
Well, some burnout, but I mean, there's only so much time in the day, and then only so many people. And if you're going to operate your business relationally, which is like, getting to know these people and actually, wanting to be their friend and want to be their advocate and things like that, it takes time.
Right.
You can't just get them in, get them out, buy, it's like, no, it takes days, and so there's only so much time. And so a person, a single agent, solopreneur, they call it, with one assistant, maybe two, caps out at about $300K in this town. I mean, there's other towns like, California where, hey, that's probably $1 million, or $2 million, who knows,
they have a bunch of more zeros behind it.
Right.
So.
What's that like?
Yeah, no. So what about being on the broker side? Like, what are some of the income revenue ranges, depending on how many agents you have underneath you? What's that risk look like?
So the biggest challenge is, are you ready to be interdependent? Because everybody starts off dependent.
Right.
Hey, you know what? I need a broker. I need leads. I need mentorship. I need you to teach me how to write a contract. I mean, everybody has some dependency coming in. At one point, you become independent. And that's the guy we're talking about, the $300K a year, one assistant. He can go anywhere and do that anywhere. He's independent. That guy's in control of his own destiny, guy or gal.
Yeah.
But then you say, hey, I want to become a broker. That means I want to become interdependent.
Yeah.
What does interdependent mean? That means that I'm willing to take all these people around me and make them better and invest in them, and it's going to be more about them than us. And so you have to make a decision that you're willing to go that road with people, because I will tell you, there's a lot of liability. There's a lot of cost. There's a lot of expense. And, I'm the kind of guy that just never gives up and sticks with things. But I feel like over the last 10 years that I've been a broker, it has been a tremendous learning experience. And it's been a growth experience. And it's a character thing. Like, like you can't be two different types of people. Like, if you want people to learn, grow, benefit, and then stick with you, you've got to be developed, My favorite quote by John Maxwell, somebody interviewed and they said, hey, what's the hardest thing about leadership?
Yeah.
And he's the leadership guru and my coach and my mentor.
Right.
And he said, leading myself, And that's the thing about leadership is, if you want to take this road, you got to be willing to do your you got to be willing to do what you say. It's like a lot of leaders say, oh, I want, this is what my perfect agent looks like. And this is what my perfect employee looks like. And this is, and I love hearing that, because I help people put businesses together all the time now. I write it all down and I say, okay, great. Okay. Are you all those things?
Yeah.
Because if you're not those things, it's going to be very hard to try to teach, coach, and develop other people to be.
Yeah.
So maybe you start smaller and develop your character before you jump in to an independent role, because you're going to start, it will get frustrating and you will spin your wheels at times. So stick with it.
Independent is like that self-sustaining agent, right? Or even broker, but interdependent is when other people are dependent on you. So.
Right. Interdependent means you care more about the people around you and their success than your own. And that's a hard road for a lot of people, because the ambition is what gets you there, but mostly it's independent ambition. Right. So you need to turn that into interdependent ambition and really start making it about your people instead of you. And that's a hard step to make for a lot of people. It's been a challenge for me, but you got to have a growth mindset and always improve, and that's where I'm at, and so I'm happy about where I'm at and the people I'm with right now. And
so the responsibility, the risk are much more. What about the reward, the financial reward?
The financial reward is, you can take this business and make.
Is there any limitations?
Upwards. No limitations at all. I mean, if you study the top producers in Texas, I mean, I know them well. They're friends of mine. I mean, they can bring in as much as $10 to $15 million a year, and they're probably keeping 7 to 8, 9 million of that. So, I mean, if you want to make hundreds of millions or, generational wealth, that sort of thing, you may have to diversify at some point. Don't do that anytime soon if you're just getting started, because he who chases two rabbits catches neither. But I mean, you could easily, within, I'd say, 6 to 10 years, get a business that makes, 15 to 20 million a year here in Texas. Yeah. I mean, of course, California, add the zeros.
Right, add a couple zeros.
But, I mean, so that's some of the financial reward of it, is like, this is, there's no real limit to it. The only limit is is your mind and what in your body and what you're willing to do or not do.
So you have a lot of experience both being a sales agent and a broker.
Yes, sir.
What do you still prefer? Obviously a broker.
Yeah, I love people, Dario, but doing the listing appointment, and man, some of my colleagues that are in their 60s and 70s, I'm like, God bless you.
Yeah.
I love that you still love going on listing appointments, but even though I enjoy it, kissing the babies and going walking through the house and talking about a CMA, you know what I mean? I love all that, but it does drain me, And at some point, and I'm not in practice right now on residential. I still do commercial. I still practice commercial real estate, but I'm not practicing residential right now. I'm leaving that to my agents. Mm-hmm. But I would like to get to a point where I build a business and I operate that business and develop people within it and develop leaders within it, but not so much involved in the practice side of it.
Yeah.
I want to create a commercial division so I don't really have to be the lead guy on most of these commercial deals, even though I don't mind doing it now because these are large transactions.
Right.
And some of them can be intricate, and so I want to make sure they have the highest level of service there, but I want to develop some people who eventually take that over for me.
Yeah.
And then I can coach and mentor and focus on developing people and helping develop leadership in people,
So even for the amount of experience you have in this industry, in both sales agent and broker, and for, as young as you still are, you still have, I feel like you still have so much more to grow,
Oh man, yeah. I've got tremendous goals and plans.
It's amazing.
It's
inspiring.
We opened up Houston 2 years ago. We got a great brokerage there. I think we closed like 45, 50 transactions there last year, which was our first full calendar year.
Yeah.
And we're getting there. It's a work in progress, and it gets harder before it gets easier.
Yeah.
But usually when it gets its hardest, that's when you're getting close to your breakthrough. And I've always taught that. We do plan on. My goal is to be in Dallas before the end of this year. So we'll have a brokerage and a team model in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio.
How about Austin?
Austin will be our last.
Yeah.
Because that is such a tough market too. We'll get there eventually, but I'm not in any hurry to get into Austin. It's so close to, and I have so many colleagues there, and it's such a tight market, especially tech-wise. It's more of a tech base, and that's our strategy. So,
right.
So, you get a lot of heavy competition there, and the cost is incredibly high in Austin.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with them. Eventually, yes, we'll have something in Austin. And then, I want to look at possibly franchising my model.
Nice.
If I can deliver a product that is something that people could take and use and develop a team of learning-based leaders within an organization in the real estate field that combines both real estate and mortgage and title, know? And so we'll see what happens. I think it's there's some that have tried to do it, and some that have been highly successful, like Remax. But it did take them years.
Yeah.
So we'll see how long it takes me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, looking forward to seeing that growth.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be a witness of that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what would you tell yourself, Carl, at 24 years old? Not that. What would you do different now that all this information, all this knowledge, all this experience, if you can go back at 24, would you do things differently, or do you think it was necessary to kind of go through a slow start?
When I was in my mid and early 20s, I was very headstrong, and I was very intentional, but only about things that I really liked or thought I cared about. And I see that in a lot of younger people, which is, I'm trying to find my purpose, or I'm trying to. And what they do is they spin their wheels and don't really make progress early on, like me. So if I could go back to the 23, 24-year-old Carl, I would say, find a mentor sooner, because mentorship is incredibly important. And I didn't understand that when I was in my early and mid-20s. I kind of just wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And, God's constantly placing mentors in your life.
Right.
People it could be an uncle, or it could be a neighbor, or it could be, one of your teachers or coaches. Right. And man, if you just go and say, hey, you know what? I know I can learn a lot more from you than what I've learned so far, and I've appreciated the time, but would you mentor me? Well, I'll tell you what, one time, we're always afraid to ask that question because we think we're going to bother them, or they're not going to have the time or something. But I tell you, it's a huge compliment when somebody asks you that, especially a young person to an older person. And that person will be like, in most cases, thank you so much for asking that, and I'd be honored. I'd be honored to do it.
Yeah.
And once you find a mentor, fully commit to him. Fully commit to learning from his success, from his or her success, but also from his or her failures.
Yeah.
Because many times you can learn a lot from a person's failures.
Right. That's the biggest learning.
And so what I would tell the 23, 24-year-olds me is find more mentors. Find them now. Now I have tons of them, and I'm just so happy with some of the ones I've developed. I didn't really develop those until my early 30s, mid 30s. And so that I think would be great advice to anybody that's listening to this is find somebody that is highly successful or productive in whatever area, whether it's health, business, maybe, faith, whatever area it is that you want to be great in, find a mentor and go and invest and have courage to ask that person whether they would mentor you. It may come with a cost.
Yeah.
There may be a cost, certainly a cost of time, energy, monetary costs. But, if you believe that person can be successful, do your research on that person and make sure they are. Like if somebody were to do their research on me, there's a long list of accomplishments that you can look at.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would tell anybody, anybody listening in their early 20s, mid 20s is, man, find that person and fully commit to them. And then you can be successful sooner.
So going back to like what you're saying, like it's very simple concepts, not like these high intricate things, like something as simple as just finding a mentor, finding the right mentor. It would help kind of like change the direction.
It could change your life.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is people, as I've studied highly successful people, the people that are more successful early on typically have a lot more mentors and coaches in their life, and that have been heavily influential in their lives. Versus the people that struggle and it takes them longer, kind of, doing their own thing. They don't really commit to anything. They don't have those people around them. Maybe there's some people around them, but they're not committed to really, being mentored by them. So that's the challenge for a lot of young people.
Let me ask you the last final question, I think, to wrap this up. And it's going to be kind of an interesting question.
Yeah.
Imagine Carl Bishop at 35 years old. And that Carl Bishop telling a 25-year-old some advice.
Yeah.
You as, now older than that 35-year-old Carl.
Yeah.
Was that 35-year-old Carl, was he right? Was he wrong? Did he do any mistakes? And
that's a good question. That's a great question.
Because
that 35-year-old Carl was still very much a knucklehead, just like the 41-year-old Carl is today. But he was more, for me, and I'm gonna be real with you guys because I can't really give any other credit but to God, because throughout my entire life, God has like saved my life over and over and over again. And I just finally, around my mid 30s, you say 35, and that rings a bell to me because that's when I fully recommitted my life to Christ.
Nice.
And I started getting way more involved in my church. I started going to mission trips. I started reading the Bible more, and I just started gaining more and more mentors. And man, that to me. And then I'm far from perfect, and I have huge work in progress. But I mean, I feel like I know what my purpose is, and and it's knowing and doing, right? But I put myself in a position to do more because I knew where I was going.
Nice,
and so that is honest to goodness truth of what has transformed. And that's another thing with the whole mentorship element.
Yeah.
When you get around the right people, they start taking you to the right places.
Right.
A mentor is going to challenge you. They're going to invite you to church. They're going to say, hey, let's go to the gym tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, hey, what are you eating right now? That doesn't look very good. I mean, they're going to constantly confront you and challenge you.
Yep.
And you'll receive a lot of growth by putting yourself around people that are successful and that are influencers. And so, you just got to search for the right ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. So to end this, Carl,
Yep.
Carl Bishop, broker owner of AE Realty.
AE Realty, yeah.
I actually took your challenge and, was mentored by you.
Yeah.
We set a goal. You promised me that goal was attainable, and we did it.
That's right, we did.
You showed me it was possible. I learned so much from you.
Thank you.
So I highly recommend.
Yeah.
If there's someone listening to this and wants to kind of take that track, what's the best way to reach out to you or get in contact with you?
Sure. Well, with you, Dario, it was an absolute pleasure, and it was my honor and my pleasure to have you there the time that we did, and working with your parents, before that even.
Yeah.
But the easiest way is check out bishopgroupcoaching.com. This is a free resource. You'll find hundreds of videos.
Bishopgroupcoaching.com?
Bishopgroupcoaching.com. Just spelled out the way it sounds. Bishopgroupcoaching.com. It's a free resource.
Nice.
There's hundreds of videos on overcoming objections, on personal development. I mean, you name it. There's all sorts of great content. You'll even see Dario on a couple of those videos. Yeah. Yep. And awesome. That's a great way. You arrive there, you'll find bunch of different ways that they can contact me, and you'll find an amazing free resource that's open to anybody that wants to improve their life or business.
Nice.
Whether in real estate or anything.
Awesome.
All the principles in there are applicable. So.
Nice. Great stuff. Thank you, Carl. It's been
brother.
a pleasure.
All right, man. Appreciate you. All right. Thank you, my friend.
And done.